missing website, I really hope that you are able to stick around and watch us, because you know what, it's, well, I guess just not just watch us. I think it's also a few other things. But for those of you guys that are watching us live, thank you so much. My name is Jonathan Tripp. I'm really glad to have everybody here. With us this morning, we have a guest. This is Ryan. Ryan, thank you so much for making this happen. This has been quite an awesome thing for you this morning. And you know what? That is just the way that things work. And I got to say a couple of things. One, thank you for being here. How are you doing?
Yeah,
Other than the tech issues, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
That's awesome.
I have some fantastic things that are happening with my company, so I'm in a good place right now.
Perfect. So Ryan, we'll kind of just, well, we'll just jump right in. But I know that not everybody knows who you are. Not everybody knows what you do. Could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and some of your background too?
Yeah, well, I've been in the print and design industry for, I would say, 15 years. I started off as a little kid designing posters for club owners and getting, that was just my way of getting into the club for free. And from there, building a business where now I'm doing marketing consultation and web development, video graphics and production and editing, photography. So my list of skills have grown over the years, and which led me to Bowtie Creative. Everyone just knew me for wearing a bow tie, and I just decided to name it Bowtie Creative. And because the bow tie kind of it just explains my personality in such a way that I just wanted people to have a better experience when doing business with me, like more of an like an enterprise level experience rather than it just being me taking an order, but to really giving you an all-inclusive service. But it's Bowtie Creative with a K. Just to let everyone know that the website is currently, we're just rebranding, so it should be up within a day or two. There's nothing I can do to change that. It's just that we've been going through this major change, which I can definitely tell you guys about today. But we've grown into this company where now, before, we were always ahead of our time in terms of offering different solutions for our customers, but we kind of narrowed down our focus to three things: hands-free website. And what a hands-free website is, hey, you get us to do the work, you never have to touch it again. So we give unlimited updates, and that's why with the new logo, if you guys go onto Twitter, you'll see that it looks like an infinity symbol, because we don't want our clients, feeling that they have to spend their whole working day working on their own website when they should actually be making money or on the beach somewhere sipping on daiquiris or whatever. But the second thing is that we have affordable options. So you no longer have to pay a retainer fee for a website design or for any service that we provide, whether it's SEO. You just pay a monthly fee. So and you don't have, there's no deposit. You just pay $200 or whatever it is, and you get a website up. So you get to market faster. And then the last thing, which is the most important thing, is community. For every website that we build, we donate a free website to persons with disabilities. And in addition to that, we just added a feature where we're going to donate to special causes as well. So if you're in the nonprofit sector and you have a really great cause, we'll a website to that cause. Because I've always been about community, and I've volunteered my time a lot, and I'm like, how can my business, be part of the greater good, and that's the way that we're attempting to. That's where we're attempting to go.
Excellent. I think that is kind of a cool thing. You're doing quite a bit of stuff. And it's very every day is one thing. And so over time, it seems like, you've been adding more and more and more to your repertoire. of different skill sets, different ways that you're going to be able to connect with your audience, or not your audience, rather your customers. What's a skill set that you're bringing from where you were to where you are now? And I think that's kind of a cool thing. And not everybody gets that, and nobody understands that you don't come to the table with everything as you're growing the business or as you're learning things. It's not all the time everywhere. It takes long. So I was trying to make sure I got it. How long have you been doing this now?
Well, I've been like my company. I've been doing freelancing for about 15 years, but doing this actually full time by myself, no partners, for 3 years. Like this is actually the next couple of days will be my third year anniversary doing this by myself.
Okay. So that's pretty intense, and I mean, it does take a little bit of time to be able to do that and get started. What was the for you? And I asked this question for a lot of people that are I would say this they're like 5 to 10 years or less. But what was the doing their business? But what was that thing that got you going? What got you into doing exactly what it is that you're doing now?
Well, for Bowtie Creative, it was necessity. My 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 fiance and I had split, and I was left with no money. And I was working for a marketing company, was a managing partner, and our interests clashed. So I broke away from that. So I was literally I had to create this business out of necessity, and that was enough. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Ever since I was 17, like I had side
Mm-hmm.
businesses and whatnot, but I really wanted to do something full time. So this was it was a perfect time for me to do something full time. And I had a few clients from the marketing company that followed me, and they really helped establish the business. And it was a good transition.
Okay.
It was a little bit of luck and a little bit of blame.
So one of the things that I had wanted to ask you, and just in all fairness, we've talked about SEO and websites and these kinds of topics, mainly because, well, I think a lot of people here have websites. I mean, I know I have one, and one of the things that it's always, I'm always looking. It's like, what about the design? How easy is it? And then once we start to kind of get into that, you start to go, you know what? I think there's more to this. There's a little bit more to just how pretty or how good it looks. It's the layout. It's how fast does it load. And then when you start adding content, you start saying, oh, are people able to find it? And that's really kind of where we're at today. And I wanted to ask you, and really ask you would you help us? How can we help people find our website? That's the real question. I think that we would like to have answered and get to know.
Yeah, well, to get noticed is very like concepts to me, and mind you, I'm dyslexic. I have a learning disability, so I see the world differently than the average person. So, trying to understand and learn the web and learn SEO was a challenge when I first started the business. And I took a few courses, but then I took a SEO course called Click Minded, and that was one of the best SEO courses that you could ever possibly take in terms of learning about the web.
Mm-hmm.
And to get noticed, the most important thing is you.
Mm.
Like I see a lot of people jump on the web because they see great, like they have the opportunity to, right? Because they think that when you get onto the web, there's low cost or there's no barrier to entry. And hey, let me just create something. But with the web or with any business in real life, you have to start with a business plan. You need to have a plan of action. You need to know your demographic, and you need to create products and services that address those needs. Because if you don't have if you don't have that basic formula, then everything else falls
Mm-hmm.
apart. And if I can just interpret what Google's trying to do, Google's trying to make the internet real and more relevant, because I know that we've all been on the web for many years, and we remember a time where if I typed in jugs in Google, I would get porn sites, or
Right.
get. So Google's trying to make sure that when you're typing in the search, that whatever your intent was, that they match your intent. And they're not there yet, but they're getting there. And they're basing your web presence more on your reputation, more on your offerings, how easy or ease of use your website is. Basic things like that. And that's the thing that a lot of people fall short. They just wouldn't get. They think they can go to any web developer. They don't do their due diligence, and
Right.
and then they wonder why there's no leads coming through. They're like, man, I thought, well, it's not. Building a website is an extension of your business. It's not that easy. So if you don't plan for it in the beginning, you're going to pay a lot of money to get put on the right direction in the end.
Well, you put a really good point in this, right? It is a business, and if you don't take it, and by business I mean you take it seriously. This is not a hobby, and I think that's the distinction. I think you're kind of driving at. And when it comes to planning and prepping and getting your website functional, we'll say functional in the terms of like you said, the design, the layout is easy for the user, for the end user. It's not easy for you. No one cares about you.
Right.
People don't care about you. They care about themselves. So when I go to your website, I want to make sure that does it load fast? How easy are the menus laid out? Do the links actually work?
Right.
But most people they're not saying, well, I know he really worked hard on it. They're saying, look, I just want to get to your information. That's what I mean when I say people don't care about you. They're caring about what their experience is, so they can. I mean, I love going to people's sites. I read a lot and I listen to a lot, but if I go in and I find that the spacing is on all the blogs are so small that I can't read it, I'm going to stop reading. If I watch a video, and for those of you guys that are watching us live on YouTube, the sound's been going in and out this morning. But you know what? I mean, the whole point really is that when we get it going, we edit it out so that people have that. Look, I want to listen to this because the sound's there, because the video's there. You guys are here commenting in the chat section because the chat's there and it's working. That's the same kind of experience I think that we need to bring to our website. So I wanted to ask you, do you have like a checklist or maybe just some overall? When you look at a website, what's the mindset? What do you look at? Is it step by step, or how's that work?
For me, it's not step by step because everyone's unique. Everyone has I call them competencies. Some people are stronger in social media. Some people are maybe stronger in content and whatnot. But in my mind, the first thing I look at is design. Because as a graphic design is how we lay out information. Because throwing a bunch of text on a page does not necessarily mean that people are going to truly understand what it is that you're saying. So if you have really small, if you have in a website, there are columns, and if you guys remember the print days, or even looking at a magazine, everything is laid out in a grid. Sidebar information is thrown to the side. If you have a blog post or you have really heavy content, you're putting it all in one column. You're not breaking up in different columns. So the first thing I look at is your layout. How easy to use is it? I look at your H1 tags. A lot of people think that H1 tags are just styling. It's not styling. It's not how big your font is. The H1 system is actually a system. It's a hierarchy system. So you start off, if you're building a page, that's what I do with every one of my websites. I start off with an H1, H2, under the H2, H3s, under the H3s, H4s.
Okay.
That's a hierarchy system. That allows the user. And I was on the radio, and a blind person was the radio announcer, And he's like, man, your website, that's why I'm doing this rebranding. He's like, your website is atrocious because I didn't understand. I didn't follow my own principle
Right.
and lay it because because I'm creative, I made this beautiful website, but the structure did not make any
Mm-hmm.
sense. So starting from the H1 and then trickling down, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a tree branch, helps people understand the context. And if you want to, like, if there's another way to put an analogy on the tree branch is, unordered list. You start off with your main topic, then you break it down to a
Mm-hmm.
subcategory. Then you got your
Yeah.
subcategories. Then you break it down to a subcategory. Or another analogy would be a mind map. You start
Okay.
off with a
Mm-hmm.
centered topic, then you break off into stems. Again, you're connecting everything where it needs to be connected. You're not
Right.
having random sidebar information that doesn't make sense with your overall
I
content,
gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
So from the hierarchy, that's where I start first. Secondly, is the keywords.
Okay.
So keywords are important because it allows you to target who you're looking who is your customer. So keyword relevancy is important. So first
Mm-hmm.
we start off from the title tag. The title tag is your meta
Mm-hmm.
description on Google, what Google sees. Putting your keywords closer to the front of the title tag so they know exactly what you're doing. So if you're a bakery, don't just because bakery, just think about it logically. A bakery is normally a local business. It's not something that you would order from
Mm-hmm.
Timbuktu, right?
Right.
So putting your bakery Calgary, and if there's a lot of bakery Calgaries in the area, then be more specific about the area at which you live. So longer tail keywords to help
Mm-hmm.
narrow down the search for people that are in your specific area.
Sure. Where would you direct people to do that research for
Well,
whether it's just a keyword or for like you said those long tail keywords which long tail keywords, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not seeing it. See, there's a word which a keyword, something like um, something. So if you want to search like yesterday we were talking about Facebook, right? Facebook, and then there's Facebook photo syncing, and then there's Facebook photo syncing 2016. That whole phrase is a long tail keyword that people, when they're looking for things, they just don't type in one word and kind of go through the 6.9 billion search results. They want to get a really specific thing. So that's kind of defining what the difference is for everybody. But where do you direct people to do actually the hard research, the fingers on the keyboard research?
three things. Use Google, and I'll type it into the look at your competitors. Look at the people that are ranking number one. Usually, the ones that are ranking number one are the best examples. You look at your competitors. So if you type in site colon and type in their domain name, you can see all of their pages, and you can see all the title tags. So you can look at the specific keywords of what they're ranking for, and then you can use some I wouldn't say copy them, but rewrite some of the sentences and work that into the body of your content. I would also check moz.com. They have great tools.
Mm-hmm.
When you type in, like, they have like a local like a they have a local engine there that will help you. If you just type in your website or type in a few keywords, they'll tell you who's ranking for what and what keywords they're using. And then Google
Mm-hmm.
Keyword Planner for Google AdWords,
Yeah.
which is a great tool because I'm just typing this in, Keyword Planner.
So you've got the Google search, and that's where
Yeah.
you use the site and colon. You have Moz.com. And are these general SEO? Are these, I mean, and I say general as in, they're Google focused, because I do know that if you're on a different search engine, it's going to come up with different, Bing comes up with a different search algorithm than what Google does. So we're generally speaking, we're talking about how does it rank within Google. Am I right? Am I correct in that thinking?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
So,
Jonathan,
mhm.
my friend has to leave. I'm going to hop on. Just restarted this laptop here.
Okay.
Can you give me a few seconds? I'm so sorry for breaking this up. And just.
Okay. Well, then, Teo, what you'll do, um, boot up that machine, and
Yeah.
then you can once you get to the website, you can actually view. Um, you can shut down the browser that you're in,
Okay.
and then just type something so I can see you, and then I'll give you another invite in so we can get you up on the screen. How's that sound?
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for being so patient with me.
Perfect. No, I
All
think this
right.
is great. We're just getting into this, and I love this. So, you do that, and then we'll kind of transition away. All right.
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect.
All right. See you in a few minutes.
So, one of the things, and guys, you know what, when I do shows like this, you all need to know that I am putting into practice, because as I'm doing research on different topics, things that not only that I think are just interesting, but it's really actual tangible ways to improve our business. And in this case, it's not just, oh, how do we think about SEO? How do we kind of put in but I'm actually trying to get into and talking about what are some actual tools that we use. And one of the things that we were just going to be talking, what I was just talking about with Ryan was that all these tools, these are Google search engine results. How many does anybody use something other than Google as a search engine? Does anybody use another one? I'd like to. I mean, I'd like to know if that's how, if you guys are seeing that, or if you guys are using a different set. Not really. I mean, I know some people do use other search engines, but a lot of people they just use Google, and with Google, obviously it's tied into YouTube and things like that. And that's one of the reasons why it's become really important to me that I start to understand, or that, and it's not that I have to every day I'm spending hours on SEO. I'm trying to get it so that I'm ranking consistently for the content that I'm producing, because every show is really specific. And that's going to be that's what I want to make sure that that we understand. And Ryan, I did just send you an invite, so let's see, bring it right in. How about that? I love
Yeah,
it,
we're good.
and the sound's great. So, as I was just telling everybody, just some of the differences between some of the other, because there are other search platforms other than Google. I mean, there's Bing, there's Yahoo. Somebody else was putting in, DuckDuckGo. I mean, and there's probably more than I could probably know.
Mm-hmm.
There's just way more. But I think just keeping it down to, and here's the reason why I say that, is because Google is the largest, and what's the second largest search engine on the planet? It's YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, it's YouTube, and that's a really big deal to me. No, Facebook. No, I reject your Facebook. I see your Facebook and raise you a YouTube. I know. Carlos is just kidding. We're watching some of the some of the comments here. And by the way, if you guys are watching us on whatever platform, you guys are absolutely welcome. Please join our Facebook group. There's a couple of easy ways to get there. I just put that up. It's actually groups.jonathantripp.com, and that will forward you right on over to our Facebook group. That's what we have running right now. You can actually watch us live within the group. And it's a great way to connect with other people that are watching the show, or to continue the conversation after the live show is done, or those kind of like in between times for us. So I want to encourage everybody to do that. So, and I'll leave that up for you guys. So, but Ryan, to kind of bring us back to where we were, we were talking about, well, how do we what are tangible tools to do SEO research for our websites, for our blog posts? What are the actual tools? And you gave us two so far. It was within Google, the site : and then type in the website, and it gives us the pages. The other one is moz.com, and I didn't know if you had another one that you would recommend.
Well, I've heard of Yoast. I haven't used Yoast.
Mm-hmm.
I use, like, for example, like other tools just in general. I use whatchamacallit. WooRank. WooRank is a way for it's a SEO analyzer, and that will scan your website and give you really practical suggestions on what you can do to understand how well your website is performing. I'm not sure because I don't like the unfortunate thing here. I wouldn't say it's unfortunate, but I don't code on WordPress. I use Adobe Business Catalyst, so I'm not familiar with the plugins. But I'm sure, if you have questions offline, just send me on Twitter, and then I have a few friends that use the word and shoot you their way. If you have any questions in regards to that. But I know that some of them are using Yoast, and there's a lot of tools out there. You just kind of have to find the ones that work best for you. But WooRank is really good. Browse SEO is awesome. And if you type that into Google, Browse SEO is a way that it shows you web pages the way that Google sees it, or way that a blind person sees it. And so it strips off all of your it strips off all of the CSS, and it kind of lays it out the way that a Google would understand it. And so sometimes when things don't make sense, you'll see it visually because it just lays the layouts are wrong, the H4 tags are up at the top, and it just looks like a mess. So that's a great way. And then there's Screaming Frog, and then you also want to check for backlinks as well.
Okay.
And I think Screaming Frog, I believe, does that. You can check backlinks. If you just type in Google, there's many different services that most that you'll probably have to pay for, but they help you understand like how well some of the websites are being.
Let me ask you this question, okay? And this is purely out of my just not knowing. I'm not aware of it. How important is it to be thinking in terms of what people particularly with a visual disability, not necessarily that they can't read it, they can't navigate, that it's a physical disability, that they can't use a keyboard, but like you said, those with a visual impairment, or even whether it's a blindness that they can't see, or like a color blindness where they can't see certain layouts. How important is it to be thinking about your website within those concerns?
It's very important because accessibility. Just because a blind, there may be a small percentage of people that cannot see. However, the principles of design and the principles of laying out your content still applies, right? Because, even a child should be able to understand the contents of your website. If it's too convoluted, too busy, you have so much different gadgets, and if it's if your website's really slow because you have all these different plugins, if your website's not mobile friendly and doesn't really fit well on the phone, a blind person won't be able to see it. Your child wouldn't be able to see it. And then best of all, people that are actually on a desktop are going to have a hard time viewing it. And Google, they rate not only they have their SEO factors, but they also monitor bounce rates. So if a user goes onto your website and then if they just can't figure your site out, they hop out. And that's not good for your business because Google's like, well, that wasn't a relevant topic, so I'm going to penalize your website because of that. So making things as easy, and you'll find one of a top ranking. I'll mention a top ranking website that is very easy to understand, and that is Warren Buffett's website. And Warren Buffett's website is atrocious. It looks horrible. It's just white with black text. And but it's just laid out in such a way where you can understand the flow. So understanding grammar and formatting is very important.
I definitely can see that, and it comes back to that usability factor.
Yeah.
If you can't, if for those that are visually impaired, if they can't actually see the website, and it doesn't matter if it's, it doesn't have just too many colors, is the text too small, but I mean, whatever the concern is, if it's too complicated and they can't actually use it, then it becomes, even if it has great content, then it becomes irrelevant. And that's one of the things that I just want to make sure that we really start to take into account is that 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 we need to be thinking about those, and it's not just now for people. When it comes to SEO, we need to be doing this so that Google or so that search engines can actually find our content. And that's why I was asking, what are the actual tools? So that you gave us a couple of really good tools. What are some other things that we have that we need to be thinking about in regards to making our whether it's the whole website or a specific page on the website, uh, something, some way that it can be found.
Okay, sorry, I hear. Hold on one second here. Just I'm hearing someone singing here, and I don't know where it's coming from. I think it's. I don't know if I have another window open, but it's. I think it's. Oh yeah, that's. It's. I think it's you. Another video or another tab popped up for some really weird reason. But yeah, um, the other things that you should, the most important thing that I would say that I failed to say earlier was um, user intent. If there's anything that you would take away from when I'm speaking about SEO, is user intent. People search. You have to understand the way that people search the web, because a lot of people conform their websites for Google,
Mm.
and yet Google's focus is more so the end user. So you have to make your website relevant for your audience. So if your demographic is between 45 to 55 years old, chances are they're going to have a hard time viewing your website because of the font. So making sure that your font is like 16 pixels and above helps them view your content with ease without them having to hop off or change their fonts or whatever. So user intent, and there's many ways, because some people have navigational searches. They're maybe looking for, they'll have some I need to go to let's say where's the nearest bank in Calgary, Alberta, and then some other searches. What is the best recipe for making curry chicken? And there's many ways that you have to think about, like if you are like a coach, a business coach, people are not going to find you on business coach Calgary. If you type that into the search engines, usually when people are looking for coaches, they're first asking questions like, how do I deal with my mother-in-law? And so understanding their intentions, you can create content that that will be relevant for their questions, so that you can, and then when they get to that landing page or they get to that page, then you can kind of bring them through your sales funnel or whatever. But just understanding their intent and then building your content around their intentions. That's where I would definitely start. And creating a keyword map, like do your keyword research. Don't just look at 5 keywords. Create a whole map. Because you'll have primary keywords that you're going to have on all your pages, but your blog is used for all the other keywords that you're not necessarily going to rank for on your main website, but it will help you. Like, let's say we're talking about we could talk about Donald Trump, right? Because that's a current event that can bring you some traffic. So creating different keywords and creating a whole map of them, and then creating an editorial schedule for the whole year on how you're going to map out that content.
Okay.
That's going to help you get organic.
Let me ask you this: how do you create? Because that's a really good tangible thing to do. Talking specifically about how do you create a keyword map? How do you? What are the? Is it literally is it a piece of paper? Is it a Google Doc? What is it? And are there any tools that we should be using when trying to create this keyword map?
Yeah, I'm pretty old school, like in terms of the things that I use. I use an Excel spreadsheet, and I use Google. I'm sure that there are tools out there that you can actually create something that is a little bit more easy to use. But I use an Excel spreadsheet, and the reason being because you've got a lot of cells. and I go on to Google AdWords keyword planner, and then I start typing in just broad keywords, bakery, Calgary, and then I start looking down the list, and I don't look for, like, AdWords is different. If you're actually paying to get on the search engines, you're going to want to have those broad keywords that have a lot of volume, and you're going to want to, and then you'll pay your money, and then you're going to get people, when they type in those keywords, you're going to get them onto your site. However, SEO is a little bit, organic search is a little bit different, because you don't want those broad keywords, because what's going to happen is that it's just like going into a bad neighborhood where there's a big gang, and you have to fight all these competitors,
Right.
right? So you want to be very specific. So if you type in bakery Calgary and you look at the list, look for specific things, specific opportunities for you to build a niche market. Right? So you take all these keywords, and then Google Keyword Planner will help you put them all into one spreadsheet.
Sure.
And then when you download that spreadsheet, you can take those keywords and kind of map them out, put them all in groups, and put the volume search right beside them. So over time, you'll have this page of all these different keywords with different search volumes, and then you can find the best one that best describes your business. That would, because you don't want something that has no traffic. But at the same time, if you have a keyword that has no traffic, that means that there's no competition to rank for those keywords, right? So, but
when you're talking about you're searching for these keywords, and it's not just how directly they relate. So like we were saying, you search for a bakery in Calgary, you just type, well, what are the common sense words that just said, well, bakery in Calgary. But Keyword Planner, when you type those in, it gives you a couple of options where you can find words that are related, keywords that when people are searching for this, and this is why this tool is so powerful, they're able to suggest other keywords to help you find. But but even then, there could be 200 keywords that are available because of that. How do you narrow down what, maybe say like the top 10 or the top 2 or what you should be focusing on? How do you make that assessment? What's the diagnostic that you use for that?
It's a trickle down effect. So you start off broad, and then you find the ones that are more relevant to your business and more specific. When you it's hard to, without showing an example, but you'll grab the ones that are more relevant to you, but then you re-put them back into the search. So you put them through a funnel. You keep on it's almost like a rinse and repeat sort of method. You take the broad keyword, you throw it into the search, it gives you a list. You take the ones that are most describes your business, and you take the ones that would give you competitive advantages, and then you take that list and you reinsert it back into Google Keyword Planner. So they're going to get more specific, and you're going to get better keywords the more you rinse and repeat. And then from those lists, and it's okay to have a little bit of broad, because there's, like, for accountants, it's hard. You do need to rank for accountant your city, right? You do need to, but but there's many accountants, so you're going to have those specific keywords that are going to get people on different pages of your website. But the rinse and repeat method is what I do to ensure that I have really and I use the word competitive. You want competitive areas where your competitors are not.
In order, because I mean, when you're doing the research for it, you can find a word that, and I've always thought of it in these terms, like you said, there's competition. Well, I guess step back. It's all the keywords we're assuming you're using are relevant. You're not, like today's show, we're talking about SEO and practical steps to making your website SEO friendly. I'm not going to just use the word Trump or Hillary Clinton because it's a popular term that's not the way this works. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, I'm sure I would get a little more traffic for it, but it would be the wrong kind of traffic. And people would actually go there, look, it would come up as that search, and people would say, well, this has nothing to do with it. And I know that Google and such would then look at it and go, oh, well, Jonathan, your content is irrelevant, or it's not functional, or depending on how sophisticated it is, it's actually not, it's not content for this. And they'll keep dinging you down. You will get less and less exposure because of it. But aside from the relevance, there are two other components. Like you said, there's competition and volume. It could be how much. I mean, if two people are searching for this term, for whatever the term is, it's probably not the best keyword or, long tail keyword to put in. What are your thoughts on that volume and the competition?
Competition, again, when you're looking at competition and volume, it's like it depends on what your strategy is. If you're using Google AdWords to pay for ads, then you want to go after the most competitive keyword and the most searched keyword. But when you're doing SEO, you kind of want to measure. You kind of have to put in. You have to look at it a little bit differently. And you want to have things that are not really being used by your competitors or have low competition, right? Because again, you don't want to fight with the bigger companies that are already established. You kind of want to find unique ways for your users to find you. So it like, I always say that SEO is like the whole process of getting your website online and getting it searchable. It's 60% art and 40% technical. Mm-hmm. But the weight is more on the art side of things. So you kind of have to find everyone has different ways of approaching their business. Just because there's just so many tools out there, there's so many ways of looking at it. But when you're looking at those keywords, you kind of want to look for the keywords that have low competition, not high competition.
Yeah,
right.
Within that, and
there has to be a mixture anyway.
And Melissa Reyes on our Facebook page, she comments. She says, "I got a lot of hits on my blog and made some." And she says she made some new followers using Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, Oscars in her, in her post. But she says she does it seasonally as it's time. And I really hope, she says, it's important to have relevant content and outbound links. And I think that's a really good point that she's making. It's not just about it's not just about, oh, well, how many keywords can I stuff in there? It's like, oh, well, when she's posting her blog at that time, it had this was a popular topic. But I know Melissa, she does a lot of those talking points in her shows and in her posts and blogs. So I mean, for me to be talking about about cars on my show, we just don't do that generally. I mean, this is we don't talk about those kinds of things. But I think, again, keeping your keywords in researching and getting into those long tail keywords where you're finding enough volume and low competition will, as you're adding your keyword sets together, are really giving you a good strategy to being found in the long term. Right. And so we've talked about some of the long tail keyword. What are some other ways that we need, or other items that we need to be aware of when putting our website together to be SEO friendly?
The most important thing, and just before we move on to the second topic, so going back to what Melissa was saying, and that's why it's so important to have an editorial schedule, and to always, you should always be looking for keywords, creating that keyword map. And then, using those keywords, and then putting those keywords on a calendar, because if we're talking about the elections are going to bring in a lot of business. And sometimes you can if there's opportunities for you to spin it, right? Some people just can't do it. Like if you're talking about cars on this show, it's not going to be relevant. But if it was a car that had something to do with tech, or that you could blab in your car, that's definitely something that you would want to talk about. So finding ways and understanding the seasons, because it's about being at the right place at the right time. That's the way that the web works. Uh, a lot of people are in the wrong place at the wrong time all the time, and it's about finding the communities and finding the places where you fit in and being relevant for that audience, right? So,
Right.
uh, so I wanted to just touch on that.
A very good point. Thank you for
Oh,
making that.
yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So the second question, or like the second thing, I was going to say, speed. Speed is huge, because again, if people can't get onto your website, then you've lost the lead. We're talking SEO here. We're talking organic search. We're talking about free advertising. And when people click your link and then, they're just waiting, what I do and what most people do, they just hop off and go onto your competitor's website. Because Google doesn't just, like when you search up Bakery Calgary, they're not just going to put you at number one and nobody else. They're going to put 5 people that match that criteria. The first 5 are going to be the most relevant to you. So if your website doesn't load properly, you're going to lose that customer to a competition. So ensuring that your website is super fast is very important. And there's GT Metrics or Pingdom. These are 2 websites that you can use to check out the speeds of your website and to ensure that you have optimal performance. And again, stay away from the plugins. The more plugins you throw on a lot of people love the themes, the WordPress themes. They're great. But at the end of the day, if they have like they got Twitter widgets, they have all these different widgets, the more plugins you have, it's going to slow down your site.
Yeah,
And
but
it's
I thought if enough was good, more is better. Isn't that like a general rule that we should be? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know I'm gonna get mails and tweets for that. No, you put in the plugins that give you the optimal amount of usage, but that don't overwhelm your site. Because how many of you guys have gone into, whether it's visual or behind the scenes, you go into your website and this pops up, this goes over, and every time you try to do something pops up, and it's because of all of the plugins that you have, and those are just the ones that you see. I mean, I don't know how many. I mean, is there a general rule of thumb about how many that you should be putting on your site, or no?
There's no general rule of thumb, because you can have a lot of JavaScript or a lot of CSS, but it's how you do it. Because you'll go onto certain websites and they have many different links to many different JavaScript libraries, and that again, for your server to process all of that, or your browser to process, they have to go through every single one of those files. So combining all your JavaScript into one file makes your site even that much faster. Minifying, which means like removing all the comments and really squishing it into a compressed version of your JavaScript file, for example, will help speed up the content. So it's just how you do it. But you also want to think, some of these plugins may look really nice, but is it user friendly as well? Because it may look good on a large screen, but what about your phone? Like, sliders are awesome, but how do they look when you get on your phone?
Right. That's I'm really glad you brought that up, because I know for me personally, while I love the desktop experience, you have a lot more features. It's so much easier to click through. I mean, it's so much more rich. But when it comes to mobile, I think a lot of people, they don't really think about it, or it's just like it's such an afterthought. They put so much time onto the desktop experience that they haven't really considered what the mobile experience is. So just real quick, what are your thoughts on how to optimize your site for mobile, or maybe even just gearing the whole thing towards mobile, which, by the way, is actually something I'm really thinking about doing with my own website, is taking it all down and gearing the entire website for the mobile experience rather than the desktop experience.
Yeah, it's just the general rule of thumb is start mobile. Start from the mobile and work your way up. So when you're designing, when you're designing your layout should begin from mobile and then you'll have the tablet, and then you kind of code that way. Mobile is the way that most people now are discovering businesses, especially because there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of people that are in the service industry, or that are bakers, they're in the restaurant industry, and that whole mobile experience. And it's not just your website, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
making sure that your website is on Google Places and on Yelp and things of that nature, so that when you're these aggregators, like if I say, "Hey Siri, find me the nearest A, B, and C company," it will pull up the most relevant
Mm-hmm.
search. So making sure that you're in those directories, making sure that you're available, and making sure your phone number is huge and big, because if they can't read your content, they're going to try to call you. They're going to try to make that, or they're going to try to fill out a form so that they can contact you. And if they can't do that on your mobile, then you're losing a lead. These are just drop leads. Think about all it, let's take it in just more relative sense, that if you had a storefront and people came in and browsed and walked out, or walk out, you would chase after those customers, because rent is really high, but you kind of have to treat your website the same way. So if, like, for example, if you're in a department store, and for us men, like, I'm going to use us men for example, in a sense that when we go into a store to buy clothes, we like the golf section to be where the golf section is, and we want golf shorts, golf shirts, golf paraphernalia, everything in one section. If it's all over the store, we're like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to go to another store and try to figure this out. So layout is important, but
Mm-hmm.
in this sense of mobile, making your website mobile ready, is making sure that, like, that you're testing it out on different devices and ensuring that, hey, like, everything is together. All the content that you're trying to convey on the desktop screen is also conveyable in a compressed format.
Right.
So there are a lot of CSS frameworks like Bootstrap, media design, or material design,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a few different themes that are mobile responsive. So you can begin there, or you can create a custom website where you just build it from scratch, which I recommend. I don't like themes.
Okay. That's interesting. I am not a website designer. That is not a gift or a skill set that I know that I have. So I do shy away from, stepping in and going, okay, this is how we're going to do it. But I do know this. I do know that from an end user experience, having, whether you're viewing it on the desktop or the mobile, or some other, like a tablet or some other device, it's absolutely crucial that as the website scales from the desktop experience all the way down to even the smaller phones, that they are able to scroll through or swipe through, however it is. They're able to click on, the graphics are clear, in that the type font is clear, and a lot of designers do they go through hours. They go through huge amount of painstaking, detailed work to make sure that it works, because they know how important it is. And this is one of those really good examples where I know that I could put together a website.
Right.
Nobody would want to see it. I would spend hours and hours for it. But you know what? The better choice would be to go out, find a website designer, find somebody that can help me do this, that they're good at what they do. They save me so much time, so much energy. And you know what? I'm going to be super happy with the project at the end of it. And I think that's a really good just rule of thumb. And so at this point, I want to make sure that if anybody that I'm taking questions. So if you guys have questions for our guests today, please pop them in the chat wherever you're watching us today. I would love to be able to give our guests a chance to kind of answer these, because I mean I've just been picking his brain for this, for today's show. So, but I had wanted to put that in there and ask if you guys had any questions for our guests. And if you guys are watching us, our guest, this is Ryan Perez. And what was your website? It was Bowtie
Creative with a K.
With a K.com. That was the what we need to make sure we remember, because I think I think if you look for something else, I do know you'll get something else. It's not his. So bowtiecreative with a K.com is where you can find Ryan. Is just in seeing a bunch of the other things that he's doing. Rashim actually asked us. She says, "What are some tips on making your website mobile friendly on like a blog post?" And I'm going to take it not from the overall site design, but from a blog post or a specific post perspective. How do we make it SEO friendly for the mobile?
For a blog post, well, original content is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you have a lot of people out there that are, you know, spin editors. They'll take other people's content, reformat it, and then throw it up on a web page and hope that people discover it. I don't rush, like, you know, my attitude, but again, I'm very specific. I don't rush out to throw out content. I'm not in a rush to throw out content because I don't want to rush and throw out crappy content. If I know that I have like something that is new and that is relevant and that makes sense and that appeals to people, I will put it out there, right? I don't like cluttering my Twitter, my Facebook with stuff that people are not going to click on because A, it wastes my time, and B, when people do click it, they're not going to look at it. So ensuring that you're doing your hardest to create great content by researching, by writing it yourself, or getting a great writer that can really understand the context of what you're saying and put it out there the way that you want it done. And then ensuring that your title tag, your H1 tags, your structures, like there's some keyword consistency there. It seems that the longer your pages, the more it just gives food to Google for them to understand. Like if you have in-depth topics, it gives Google more food. But I just wanted to hop like away from blog posts, just in general. Backlinks are also important.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because the thing is, think of your website being a journal, a university. If anyone went to college or university, journals are the they are the fundamental building blocks of how Google looks at your website. So when you look at a journal and you read it, it could be a scientific discovery or whatever. There's sources stated at the bottom. That's what gives your page the weight. That's how you get bumped up in the search engines. You get most of the weight coming from those links. So if your content is relevant on your blog posts, it should be relevant enough that Oprah would tweet about it. That people would reference your article, because when you're doing proper research and if it has proper references and links to, like if you're talking about WordPress, that you are using websites that have really great ranking and that have good established content. If you're linking to those websites and you're backlinking to them, that gives your page relevancy. It helps Google understand your content better, but then someone could go and look at your blog post and be able to reference it because you properly referenced your content. Do you see what I'm saying? It's better to go to the root sources, to go to root content. You don't want to take articles and respin them because you're just losing. The more you do that, the content itself just loses its weight. Just from I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, I do, because when you make a post and there's an outbound link and from your content to somebody else's, that's showing the search engines that source is something worth linking to. And so when it's reciprocated, not necessarily directly just from that site, but if you have other outside links that are pointing back to your website, that's showing and giving in the search engine's minds more credibility with your post, with your website in general, whether like it's jonathandrip.com or bowtiecreative.com, whatever it is, it's the backlink. Now, you can go overboard, of course, and you can start trading links all back and forth, and you can put in 100, 200, 300 links on your post, and now all of a sudden it triggers with the search engines, particularly with Google, and they go, that's not a good practice. We're actually going to put you down. We're going to ding you for it. And that's not the way that we want to be promoting our website, because I'm not out just trying to put out 200, although there are some ways around it. One of them, if you write a very long tail, a long form blog post, say 2,000 words and such, you can put in several articles in that. I mean, you can put lots of different links. And I've done this before where we say, top 25 coffee shops in the greater Philadelphia area. Now you get that, and because it's long enough and there's graphics and links, and you can get away with that. That's a good way to work around putting in multiple outbound links and not being targeted, and vice versa. When you get hit, when you have your website out there with lots of backlinks, and I'm gonna throw this out, and Ryan, I hope we're seeing eye to eye on this, because I really hope so. And here's the reason why: if you go to Fiverr and you pay $5 and you get backlinks, though not all backlinks are created equal, right?
Right.
Not all backlink. You can, if your site ends up getting backlinks on the wrong places where Google says, that's a spammer site, Google will now go, oh, this website, this blog you just posted is getting posted in a spammer site. Maybe that's not a really good blog post because spammers are talking about it. Do you see where I'm kind of going?
Yeah, exactly. Again, going back to that, university journal, if you're linking to poor sources, your research paper is not going to look that good. And there are a lot of blog websites that are like Huffington Post. Sometimes they throw out really bad articles, and they're poorly sourced. They're just trying to get their quota in for the day, and people react. You'll see on the bottom of, let's say, BuzzFeed, you'll see at the bottom people are like, WTF or fail, because the article didn't do a good job making the content rich. And sometimes, that's why I go back to my premise that I don't rush to create content. I'm not in a rush, because having 10 articles that are bad is far worse than to having one article per month. Because that one article will create a lot of traffic for you if it's done correctly.
Right.
And when you're take the other thing too is take the web seriously. Don't do things arbitrarily. If you're going to put out content and you want people to backlink to you, get the right people. Like, go after the top bloggers, email them. You have to do the cold calling. You got to do the work that's offline, offsite optimization. Call people and say, hey, I have this article. Do you want to take a look at it? Can you link to this article? Can you talk about my book? Can you talk about this? Or write press releases. That's another way of getting good backlinks, because if the press pick it up and they think it's relevant for like let's say you're talking about Donald Trump and it's a great article, they're gonna put you out. Now, I want to say something about the news. Like, the news platform, really good reporters and journalists, what their job is, their job is to find the truth. And a lot of us just think, oh, I just want to talk about this today. But they're not really finding the truth of that article. They're just taking something, they're spinning it just so that they have something to show on their website. But try to adopt journalism practices when you're writing your content. Discover the truth. Maybe make a phone call here and there and talk to people. Try to get a different perspective so that your article, when you throw it up on the web, that it's unique. Because think of the web being a pie, right? Everyone's going to have a portion of that pie. and there's only enough pie for, there's only enough slices for whoever's playing in that arena. So if you want to take some of their market share, if you want to take some of those people away, you got to create unique content that fits in the overall perspective of things.
I get it. That's a really good point to take because we talk market share and in those it's really how much attention. I mean, we only have a certain amount of attention, and we've got to take it from somewhere. We need to basically we need to be able to provide good content so people really want to engage with us. And I wanted to add, kind of getting back to the links real quick. Rashim had a really good question. Actually, she has two really good questions slash comments. She says, when using backlinks, do you need to get permission from the original source to link to your blog? What's your
Like,
advice?
do you need permission for them to link? Well, I mean, you don't, because some people will backlink you, and you don't necessarily want them to backlink to you. And so, they don't really need permission, but you can send them a kind letter saying, hey, I just want you to take down the link, because maybe it's not associated with your brand or whatever. But, you really, like, that's why those backlinking services are very important to check, so that you can see who's backlinking to you. And if it's like a spam website or an XXX website,
Right.
you want them to just,
That might not align with your brand and with your business model and things like that. She has a follow-up question though. She says also backlinks work if you link to some other content on your own site. And that's a different kind of a backlink. It's we don't call it backlinking, but what she's asking is that what about linking to different pages on your own website within a blog? So maybe you're writing 1 week about SEO on a mobile. You're going to link back to another blog article that you wrote about researching long tail keywords. What's that kind? What's that
well,
called,
internal
and how do
linking
you
is
use it?
important. Internal linking is important, but don't overdo it with the links. But when it comes to internal links, Google's like, go ahead. We never said, don't stuff your website with links to other content, because the more links you have on your site, the better Google's going to understand the context of the one page. Because how can you tell the difference between Jonathan and I? Well, you have to compare us in order for you to understand who I am and who Jonathan is. So the same way as your website, like having those links and having content that's relevant to the subject that you're talking about is important. So linking is very important in the inner pages. And I was just reading an article saying that Google was like, yeah, like, do what you like, do what you want to do. You don't have to put a no follow attribute to your internal links. Go ham with it. But just again, think user intention in mind. Stop designing for the search engine. If you wanted the search engine, if the search engine was a human, then maybe design your website for a search engine. But your search engine is not going to pay you. Design your website simple enough for your customers to be able to use it, to contact you, to add comments, to get the information that they're looking for, because that is what's going to boost you up in the long term. So you don't overdo it with the links. Don't
Perfect.
build, a linking strategy
Great.
just for the sake of.
That's really great advice. I really appreciate that. And I think going through each one of these steps, and we've talked about so many of these, and I'm going to be posting this, or actually this is already on YouTube. I'm going to be putting it out there for so that you can watch pretty much the whole recorded portion of this show, which is what I think like 99% of you guys are watching. It's super great to be able to do that, and so I'm really glad to have brought you on, Ryan, today, where we actually talk about some tangible steps to actually making our content and our websites SEO friendly, how to do the research, how to differentiate some of the like the short and long term key long tail keywords. What are we looking for as far as like how important is mobile and those kinds of things, and those are all just really good tangible things to be able to do, not just, well, how do we think about SEO? How do we put this into a marketing content plan? It's and those are good too, but sometimes actually getting some of the nitty gritty is just as important, if not more, for that on the day-to-day basis. So thank you, Ryan, so much for clearing that up.
Yeah, no doubt. And like there's and just so that everyone knows that um, one thing that's becoming a norm is structured data. They're tags that meta tags that you can put towards your content so that Google could understand and read your content better. Because Google is getting into this whole naming game, and they're just labeling everything, making sure that like even the HTML markup represents the content. So instead of it being div and then a bunch of content within the div, they have sections, they have article tags. So it helps the search engine understand, hey, well, this page is an article. And then structured data is a way of putting meta tag for testimonials so that when people are searching up your business, and if you have a restaurant, like those your testimonials show up right on the Google search.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then also structured data also helps you get, like if we're using social media, it helps your pages format better, because there's two, you have the Twitter cards, and then you have the Open Graph, and even Blab, and some of these different websites, Tumblr, they all use these engines that reformat your content so that it looks good, right? So if you're not utilizing structured data, you're missing out on the opportunity of getting those new customers. And the last thing too is social media. Social media is becoming more and more. It's becoming a heavy, like what's the word? Sorry, I just lost the word. It's becoming more fundamental in terms of being ranked well. And that's something that people, you're like, social media is nothing. But now you need to worry more about your social profile more than ever.
That's that's a really good point with when it comes to you're writing your in structuring your website and the posts that you put so that they are SEO as well as social friendly. And this is one of those points where I think they start to feel overwhelmed. And you brought up, and I'm going to go right back to it, and I think we'll kind of end with that comment that you made of saying, look, don't write your content just for SEO. Write it for people. Writing good content and just making things super relevant, making them very almost plain and simple. It really will help your content reach the people that are actually looking for your content on the as a first step. And that's a really good entry level to get into it. And of course, I mean, just as complicated as the search engines are, so can your SEO strategy become too. But let's not get overwhelmed with just getting to the basics of producing good content, being consistent, writing just relevant keywords, and start with that. And I guarantee you'll already start to get more traction with that. So with that, I think we'll wrap up our show today. Ryan, I want to say thank you for being a guest today. You've been a trooper. Getting working through whatever the tech issues are, but that's life. That's the way things work. And I really want to say thank you for taking the time to be a guest today on our show.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. Hopefully, people understood me. I look at things a different way, and I only explain them in the way that I understand them. So I'm not too tech. I know how to do it when I'm doing it, but describing it sometimes it's a hard time for me because of my learning disability. But so I'm hoping that people understood what I was trying to say.
No, I think you came through, and we went through several of these topics and several of the questions. And thank you to everybody that's been watching us live for the recorded portion of the show. And I think at this point, what we're going to do is we do have an after show, and if you'll just stick around a couple of minutes, but we're going to wrap up the recorded so that if you're watching us anywhere else outside of Huza. You've got to come here to see the after show, and sometimes those are actually just as good, if not better, than the recorded portion. But I do want to say thank you for that. Guys, we're going to be back here tomorrow. Tomorrow we have another guest, Rachel Moore with Really Social. She's going to be our guest for tomorrow. Our shows are Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And you can find me at jonathantripp.com. And if you would like to, you can sign up for to be a part of our email community at jonathantripp.com/better social. And that is a really great way to be able to stay in contact and know about upcoming shows, some upcoming guests, ones that you're like, look, if there was one thing you're going to do this week, you'd be able to watch that. And I cannot get away without saying thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. You guys are really stepping up, and I have to say thank you so much for everything you guys are adding and being a part of this. So with that, I want to say thank you guys. We will see you again tomorrow. And with that, I hope you guys are going to have a great day. If you do need to get a hold of me, please just let me know. And I cannot wait to be able to answer your guys' questions. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much, Ryan. And we're going to go off the air now. So thank you.
Awesome.